is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
The LA Clippers have become self-aware. Like some machine in a futuristic dystopian movie, maybe a bad one starring Johnny Depp, or one from the 1970s, the LA Clippers now know who they are. They are self-aware. And if there's one thing in this world that will help you along in your path in life, it is self-awareness. Who am I? How can I get better? What is my ceiling? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. The LA Clippers have realized that ceiling. They have realized who they are. They realized this is as good as it gets. Lob City could take them no further. 5 50-win seasons, and they had seen the ceiling of Lob City. 5 50-win seasons, and they had seen the ceiling of Blake Griffin. And the Clippers decided it was time to get better. It was time for change. The Los Angeles Clippers have agreed to a deal late yesterday, just after the close of the Will Cain Show, to send All-Star Blake Griffin to the Detroit Pistons in exchange for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a first-round pick that is protected 1 through 4 in the next year, and a second-round draft pick, which would, according to reports, are the worst of the second-round draft picks the Detroit Pistons were holding. The Pistons in exchange will get Bryce Johnson and Willie Reed along with Blake Griffin. You never know where you are. It's really hard to ascertain how good am I? How smart am I? How good looking am I? But if you're ever going to be someone who wants to get better, that becomes a key component to life. Self-awareness. For many, many years, it's been easy for the Los Angeles Clippers to avoid that reckoning, to avoid dealing with who they are. They had 3 All-Stars. They perhaps had a top 50 player on their roster in Chris Paul. And they had a flashy brand name. They had Lob City. And that led them to regular season heights. That led them to 50-win seasons, 5 of them in a row. But it also led them out in the playoffs, no further than the divisional round. Never a conference finals, never an NBA finals. And at some point, apparently that point was last night, they realized this trade was the way forward. This trade was the one with some potential future, from some potential hope. Listen to Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN NBA insider.
This all really came together in the last 24 hours. And instead of waiting around for maybe a great deal, they got a really good deal. They took it now. And with Blake's injury history, he can always be one play away from being untradeable with an injury. They took the deal that was on the table today.
It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. In 2011, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban and Indiana Pacers general manager Kevin Pritchard talked about this idea of the mediocrity treadmill. They were speaking at the MIT Sloan Conference on Sports Analytics, and they talked about this idea that the worst place to be in the NBA is stuck in this zone in the middle where you are barely making the playoffs or barely missing the playoffs, and your ceiling, your future, is capped. You're never really a contender, and you know what? You're probably never really a lottery team. You have no real way of breaking through. Pritchard was the one that coined the term the mediocrity treadmill. The Los Angeles Clippers came to define something over the last 5 years that's slightly different than the mediocrity treadmill. What the Clippers were was super mediocre. They were a good regular season team. One, as I said, that could win 50 games. But we also saw the ceiling on that team. We saw as far as that team could go. The experiment had been tried and failed. I talked about this last week when I talked about what the Cleveland Cavaliers should do. And I was quite clear that I thought the Cavaliers should explore trading LeBron James. And why is that? Because at that time I told you the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting to achieve a different result. Well, the great rebuttal to me on that idea is sports happens. Sports is the ultimate unpredictable venture. An injury could happen. Someone could get hurt. A fluke. An outcome no one expected. Leicester City wins the English Premier League. Bookies go broke. It's sports. Things happen. But on the other side of that coin, at some point you have to become rational. You have to become self-aware and realize, actually, Bob, I've tried this a few times in a row. For the Los Angeles Clippers, that was 5 years in a row of trying the experiment, of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. I would also offer for the Cleveland Cavaliers, it has been several years in a row of seeing how your season is going to end. Looking dead long into the buzzsaw that is the Golden State Warriors and seeing your ceiling. And what do you do when you look into the mirror and you see something you don't like? You curl up in the corner and cry about your station in life? You deny it and lie to yourself that it's not really the case? Or do you come to grips with the harsh reality that Blake Griffin is 28 years old? He's expensive. He's injury prone. He doesn't fit the modern NBA. He's jacking up three-pointers for the first time in his career, but he is by no means how the big man is playing in the NBA today. And our future, our being Los Angeles Clippers, isn't tied, at least any future that we want, to Blake Griffin. The Clippers came to grips with that reality. And this I would applaud as a move, a leap, maybe one filled with hope. Maybe more hope than anyone wants to really acknowledge, but a leap off the mediocrity treadmill. Woj said they believe they're doing this here without bottoming out. Listen.
They want to reshape that franchise without bottoming out. And that's why getting back in this deal 2 starters and Harris and Bradley, but also getting that first-round draft pick, likely it'll be in 2018, the Pistons pick. And now they have DeAndre Jordan and Lou Williams, who they also hope they can get first-round picks for. Now you have a chance to have multiple first-round picks here in the next couple of years to start reshaping this team that was very top-heavy with that $170 million plus they would have owed Griffin over the next 5 years.
I'm unconvinced, Steven Cerruti, that this isn't going to require bottoming out. I'm unconvinced that Tobias Harris and Avery Bradley represent somehow staying competitive while you gather up first-round picks. I think this is the Clippers beginning the bottoming out phase.
I don't think they're necessarily going to be much worse this year, but a lot of those guys are expiring deals, right? With the hopes that they can make something bigger in the next offseason or the 2019 offseason. If they strike out in those 2 offseasons, they're definitely bottoming out.
Yes. Perhaps the thing they gathered more than anything else, beyond the first-round pick, beyond the second-round pick, and Tobias Harris, what they gathered was flexibility, financial flexibility to get in on, the LeBron James sweepstakes? We'll see. But this is a leap off the mediocrity treadmill. By the way, it's also a leap off the treadmill for the Detroit Pistons. It's an effort by them to create Lob City Motown version. It's an effort by them to say, you know what? Lob City has a ceiling in the West. Does it have one in the East? But if you think about it, there's a lot of teams stuck on this mediocrity treadmill or super mediocrity treadmill that might need to make similar choices.
The worst place in the NBA to be is from about 6th in your conference to the top of the lottery, right? Because then you're not good enough to really do anything, and you're not bad enough to really make your team any better. And especially if you're a market like Detroit, where you're not going to get guys to go there. I think I like this trade for both sides.
I would expand what you just said. In the age of the Golden State Warriors, the worst place to be might be the 4th or 3rd seed down to the top of the lottery. 6th, honestly, is far away. The Warriors have raised the ceiling. It's harder to see to the top. And if you're at 4, 5, 6, you would have to have a telescope to look up there and see where that ceiling is that you hope to reach. I'll tell you this. I'll come up with a list of teams. These are the teams that I believe are stuck on the mediocrity treadmill that need to make Clippers-type moves. We'll do that straight ahead. Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Who's on the mediocrity treadmill? Who should take the leap? Straight ahead on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Mike Golick here. You know, ADT, the #1 security company, can now help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go. Get started with the ADT Starter Kit professionally installed for only $49. Plus, you'll get ADT Go, the new family mobile safety app and service with 24/7 emergency response for free with any ADT security system. Go to ADT.com/podcast to learn more today.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Additional charge for ADT Go premium services after March 31st, 2018.
It's 2011 at the MIT Sloan Sports Conference in Boston, Massachusetts. Mark Cuban and Kevin Pritchard are on the stage talking about the worst place to be in the NBA. They suggest it's not at the bottom, and it's obviously not at the top. The worst place to be in the NBA is stuck in the middle, barely making the playoffs, barely missing the playoffs. Kevin Pritchard coins the term the mediocrity treadmill. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I ask you today, The Los Angeles Clippers have looked long and hard into the mirror and realized they were on the super mediocrity treadmill. In other words, they could keep running it out there again and again, 50-win seasons, calling it Lob City all you want, but they saw the ceiling. Pritchard at the time said what you need to win the NBA Finals, and 20 out of the last 24 champions fulfilled this formula, was 3 All-Stars. He later went on to amend that to say 1 top 50 player of all time and 2 All-Stars. With that knowledge in hand, let me ask you this. How many teams are stuck in either the mediocrity treadmill or super mediocrity? Because there's a lot of teams that would have to look hard in the mirror.
I think it's less than you think, because it's hard to just blow it up and be like, hey, like we're only 6th or in the middle of the East or the West, and just say, hey, we're going to just reset the button and not lose all of our fans and all of our interest. Like,
I never
it's a hard
understand
decision
why you
to make.
guys from the Northeast lose that second T in button. It just bothers me how you say button.
Sorry. We talked about this
There's
yesterday.
2 T's in button. Button.
Button.
Button. Are the Washington Wizards on the mediocrity treadmill?
They're getting there. I wouldn't blow it up right now.
When John Wall's done with his contract extension, he'll be 32 years old. I think they might have to look long and hard into that mirror. How about the Pelicans?
Yes, 100%.
The difference with the Pelicans for me is they have one of the pieces. They have the main piece. They have that guy. He may not be a top 50 all-timer, but he's the A1 among 3 All-Stars. So you can't blow that up. You continue to build around Anthony Davis. All right, let's do this. We'll put this whole list together, but first, I don't know, let's ask Ramona. On the phone, ESPN NBA insider Ramona Shelburne joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Here's the thing, Ramona. I want to ask you about all the details about this trade with Blake Griffin, but I'm going to put the conversation I'm having to you. What do you think? How many teams right now, you can give me a percentage if you think that's the way to do it, are looking long and hard in the mirror and coming to the same kind of realization that the Clippers just came to? This is not going to be good enough.
So this is different than 2011, though, Will, because the Warriors are out there, right? There was no Warriors in 2011. And, there's no such thing. It's not even just mediocrity. It's like you can't beat the Warriors, so what are you doing?
Right?
And I think there's actually a lot of teams out there right now that says, you know what? We're probably not going to be able to touch the Warriors for that 2 or 3 years at least. So maybe it's okay just to be that 8 seed.
Okay, hold on.
It's okay just to get in and get a couple home playoff games.
You're absolutely right. We need to redefine this from 2011 because Pritchard said at the time you need 1 top 50 guy and 2 All-Stars. The Warriors have proven, no, what you're going to need to beat us is 2 top 50 guys and a couple All-Stars. So I'll ask it to you this way. Which teams don't believe they have to blow it up to compete with the Warriors?
I think there's about 5 or 6. and I don't think they have to blow it up, but I think even those 5 or 6 think they have to do something. I think Houston's going to try to get better at the trade deadline. I think that Oklahoma City will try to get better at the trade deadline. And what you have right now is an NBA where we have these sort of Frankensteinish connections, superstar teams right now. You would never look at Carmelo, Paul George, and Russ and say, yeah, those 3 can play together, right? But those are just the 3 you can get, okay? So there was this sense that now with the Warriors, and we're living in this world now where they have 4, okay? They have a big 4, and they have Andre Iguodala Finals MVP, right? And they have other really good, nice role complementary players. They're just so far and away better than everybody else that the only team that has sort of had a shot is LeBron because he's LeBron, and everybody else is just kind of, okay, well, let's just see if we can get 2, and then we'll see if we can get 3. And I don't know how they're going to fit together, but we're not even in the conversation unless we get those.
What is Blake thinking today, Ramona?
Whew. I mean, I hope, it sounds like he's being very professional. I just talked with the Clippers, and I go, how was that conversation? Right? They went from telling him, we think of your legacy as a Clipper, we want you to be a Clipper for life, to trading him to Detroit 6 months later. That's cold, right? That's pretty cold, and I think that's really rough on him because LA's been home for him and he bought into that. But let's be real here.
Did
he
you
took the money? Okay.
Yeah.
It was $170 million, and sometimes it's one of those. It's too. We've seen a lot of teams make proactive moves rather than pay their superstars who aren't transcendent superstars that kind of money. Like you saw DeMarcus Cousins get moved, Jimmy Butler get moved, because those teams flat out didn't want to do what the Clippers did with Blake Griffin. And now the Clippers did it later, and they probably got less for him because he was locked into that deal. But I think they did what you're talking about, Will, and said, look, we don't really have a path here. They had a thread the needle kind of path, right? They had a maybe we can sneak into the 7 or 8 seed, and it's kind of nice. They had a great team this year, like in terms of just watching them, right? Like they were playing their butts off. They got a bunch of G leaguers who were doing great. You know, I've been to a couple of their games recently when they were on this run. It's been fun. Like I like seeing guys playing their butts off, playing to stay in the league.
Okay, fun
right?
for you. Okay,
but,
all right.
But that's nice, you know. But it's like, okay, so you'll get like 2 home playoff games in a 7-game series against the Warriors. Probably going to go 4 or 5. You'll probably get 2 home playoff games. What's that, like a couple mil a playoff game for the home gate? Is that worth it? Is it worth it for your fans to feel like, okay, we gave it a shot? Some owners would say yes. I actually thought Steve Ballmer would be one of those owners. But, you know, from what I understand, Jerry West talks to, you know, has his ear right now and said, hey, man, team's not with this team. You want to do something special. It's not going to be like this.
Right. Okay, I have time for one more, but I want to ask you this, and I got like a minute here.
Yep.
So Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a first and second round pick for Blake Griffin. Reports are that Lou Williams and DeAndre Jordan will stay on the block. They will continue looking for trades for those 2 guys.
Sure.
Do you think those guys, or one of them, will bring back a better haul for the Clippers than Blake Griffin actually did?
Well, okay, do you see Tobias and Boban, you see those contracts as a better haul because they got players? Or do you see it as, oh, man, they have other contracts now? You got more on the books. Because to me, the biggest thing is you got a first-round pick out of it. The Clippers have been giving those away for the last few years. I think DeAndre would probably get a first-round pick in return. Probably Lou Williams as well. I don't know if Lou would quite get a first, but he would get something, but they won't come back with a lot of money, right? You know, and so you're not encumbering yourself for the future. But in terms of will they get other players back in return? Probably not.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question, by the way, is incredibly insightful on how the league views Blake Griffin's contract right now. Because that's the only reason, right? Yeah. Well, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons. I got to run, Ramona. Where are you? Are you walking around the hallways of the Staples Center?
Oh. I'm walking around New York today, actually. I was in Philadelphia for the Ronda Rousey Royal Rumble thing, and then I just caught a day in New York afterwards.
Did you almost make her cry? Did I see that in that interview? Did she turn her head? I swear. Awesome interview, by the way.
It wasn't me, though. It wasn't me. I wasn't Roy Firestone in that. That was the fans. They were, like, all chanting for her and stuff. And I think she was legitimately really touched by it. And, you know, Ronda's a very emotional person, but she also hasn't been out in the spotlight like that over a year.
Yeah.
So to, like, come out and then just get cheered and chanted for, just, you know, that caught her.
Well, it was an awesome job. People should check out that interview. All right, Ramona, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Will.
All right, so we talked about this yesterday on the show. I'm going to get back to this. I want to talk about which teams are stuck, which are on the mediocrity treadmill. I promise I'm going to get to that. I also have to do this, okay? I talked about Chief Wahoo, the Indians logo, the Indians retiring that logo in 2019. I talked about it yesterday, and boy, did that conversation and the question of whether or not the Washington Redskins should move on from their name explode today on First Take, and we have to talk about it. That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Got to get into this Redskins debate. It was pretty explosive today on First Take. And a lot of the things that we talked about yesterday, almost in a theoretical fashion. I mean, if not Chief Wahoo, which, by the way, was one I completely understand and found that the Chief Wahoo logo was, you know, not something that was being done with honor and respect, but instead mockery. But if that, then what about the Braves? What about the Indians? What about the Redskins? And as it went on First Take today, what about the Fighting Irish? That. Just a little bit ahead on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. But first, all right, I talked about this. Okay, who's stuck in the mediocrity treadmill in the NBA? The Los Angeles Clippers have realized they were stuck in the super mediocrity treadmill. They were stuck at 50 wins, second round of the playoffs, and out. And they have taken that long, hard look in the mirror and decided this is not good enough. And good for the Clippers. Good for them realizing that. They've traded Blake Griffin to the Detroit Pistons, and our own Adrian Wojnarowski is also reporting that they're continuing to look for deals for DeAndre Jordan and Lou Williams as well. Who else is stuck in this house with a low ceiling? Who else is stuck in a position of realizing We don't have what it takes. We don't even have the core components of what it takes to beat the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to name some teams. You guys help me out here. First of all, so Rudy, you think the New Orleans Pelicans are in that situation? They are in a, we're not good enough, we're going to have to blow this thing up type of scenario. I do not.
Why? Just because they have the one guy? They have the most important piece, right? They have the top 50, maybe all-time player, right? And Anthony Davis?
Anthony Davis is 24 years old. He'll be 27 by the end of this contract. You continue to try to build around Anthony Davis.
You're right, but they've done such a poor job, with all due respect, in their front office of building around him that they don't have a ton of flexibility to do anything. And now with the Boogie injury, like, what's happening now? What are you going to do? Because he's probably not coming back the way he was.
We certainly have not seen the ceiling of a team whose centerpiece and number one player is Anthony Davis.
But it might not, his best playing days might not be in New Orleans. They might just not be able to do it at this point. They've already failed miserably bringing in guys to help him out.
I don't think the Pelicans are in that boat. I think the Wizards are much more interesting. Are the Wizards stuck in super mediocrity? Nuno, what's up?
Oh, definitely. I know another team. What about the Raptors?
Raptors are tough, man. I mean, what are we looking at here? You have to say, great regular season team. A good playoff team. Can you not find one more piece that helps you over the hump? See, here's the thing. I think this deal made a ton of sense for the Los Angeles Clippers. I also think it made sense for the Detroit Pistons. I think putting yourself in contention in the East is different than putting yourself in contention in the West. You can at least subject yourself to sports happens later in the game. It's more wide open in the East. Lob City Motown is much more exciting than Lob City West Coast.
The way that I'm reading from you is that you think that teams that have given it a shot for like 4 or 5, even 6 years and have failed with the same group, that's when they should blow it up.
Absolutely. If you have hope on your roster and that hope has not yet been tried and failed and seen as insanity of trying the same thing over and over again, you're not in blow up stage to me. But if you've done that same thing, which the Clippers had done, and by the way, I think you're right, Nuno, the Wizards are headed down that path. Wall, Beal as your centerpiece. I'm not ready to say it's over, but we're pretty close to seeing the ceiling of that core.
I think a team that got lucky this year was the Grizzlies. They were in that pattern, right? With Conley and Gasol, obviously Randolph left, but they've had those injuries, so they've been really bad. But I think that there's the team there. What about the Spurs going forward? Yes, they've won, but they can't beat the Warriors.
They got the one top 50 player, perhaps, in Kawhi Leonard, and they also have the greatest coach. I mean, if definitely now in the NBA and in a debate with one or two other guys of all time. I mean, I don't know what he counts for, but he counts for something big. I'll give you one more. The Portland Trailblazers. You're nodding along already.
No, I was just going to bring them up.
It's hard because Lillard is good.
And McCollum's an all-star.
Yeah.
But what is it so bad that you just make the playoffs every year? Yeah, you're not going to win it, but you're still making the playoffs. You're still relevant. Your team is still somewhat interesting.
Well, we did that.
There's some value in winning.
Look, we had that conversation on the show when Ryan Russillo was here about the Clippers particularly. I had that conversation directly with Doc Rivers, where Doc made that argument. What's so bad about winning 50 games a year and being in contention, being 1 or 2 series away from the NBA Finals? And it's true. You don't want to. Ryan used to get on me all the time, like, you can't compare everything to the Warriors. And he's right, because everyone fails that test. But at some point, your experiment has been tried. And at some point, you realize your experiment has failed. The Clippers had arrived at that scenario. They had arrived at that realization. The Wizards are close to being there. I honestly think the Cavaliers are there now. They are now at, we have tried this experiment. But if you're the Pelicans and these kind of, maybe the Blazers, if there's still some hope left in your experiment, you don't go back to the drawing board just yet. The Will Cain Show is reminding that you can listen to all 3 hours of the show on your phone on your ESPN app. So, all right, I need to do this on the other side. Here's the thing. Roger Goodell went on Golic and Wingo this morning, and he talked about whether or not Dan Snyder should now, after the Cleveland Indians retired Chief Wahoo, Dan Snyder, owner of the Washington Redskins, should consider retiring the nickname Washington Redskins. That led to what I would say was a pretty tense debate this morning on First Take that yours truly was involved in. Let's talk about it. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. What if you had a cause and nobody seemed to care? Would it still be a cause you should fight? You doing it for somebody else? Or you doing it for you? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We got into this conversation a little bit yesterday. Chief Wahoo, the Cleveland Indians mascot, has been retired. It has been seen as racist by some out there. And the Indians made the decision in 2019, Chief Wahoo will no longer represent the Cleveland Indians. I get it. It actually reflects my personal opinion as well. I look at the Cleveland Indians logo, Chief Wahoo, and I think that's not a symbol intended to honor. That's not a symbol intended to show pride. It was a cartoonish caricature that was somewhat of a mockery of Native Americans. But if Chief Wahoo goes, then what else should go? Because as we quoted yesterday, Philip Yenyo, who's the executive director of the American Indian Movement of Ohio, said the name Indian must go as well. The name Brave in Atlanta must go as well. And of course, the name Redskin in Washington must go as well. Well, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was on Golic and Wingo this morning, and he was asked about that. This was his answer.
Dan Snyder has really worked in the Native American community to understand better their perspective, and I think it's reflected mostly in a Washington Post poll that came out in the last year that said over 9 out of 10 Native Americans do not take that in a negative fashion, the Redskins logo or the Redskins name, and they support it.
What happens when you're so sure something's offensive, but those who might be offended are not? I mean, is it offensive if no one's actually offended? Now, you can tell me, because here's the thing. I feel like we have to have some rational conversation about who and what is beyond the bounds of civilized conversation, when offense is enough to dictate behavior. And I know many people disagree with me, and I welcome that disagreement. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. I said nothing less. I want that honest engagement. I want that honest conversation. If you want a show that only tells you what you already believe, this is not the show for you. If you want a show to reinforce what you think you know, this is not the show for you. And I'm Nuno, you disagree with me. Cerruti, I don't know if you disagree with me, but I'll tell you this. I know Max Kellerman disagrees with me because Max and I were on First Take this morning. And I know the same study that Roger Goodell was talking about. The Washington Post commissioned a poll in 2016 and asking 500 some odd Native Americans whether or not they found the term Redskin in reference to the Washington Redskins offensive. 9 out of 10, 90% said they did not. That is a stunning, overwhelming number that do not find the term offensive. You layer on top of that the fact that, and I'm not going to have the statistics to back this up right now with you, but I am very confident in this fact. The Washington Redskins are the most popular football team among Native Americans. Number 1 rated team among Native Americans. It makes you really wonder, well, then who is it that you're caping up for? Who is it that you're protecting? Who is it you're saving from offense when someone is not offended? Bub, I'd like you to play this for me. So this is what Max's argument to me in response was on First Take today.
As to the argument, kind of when is enough or when does it end, my friend Brian Kenny, Stephen A., our colleague and good friend from ESPN, now on MLB Network, was tweeting about this last night, and someone asked him about, what about the Fighting Irish? Brian is Irish-American. His father, Charlie Kenny, the late, great Charlie Kenny, bog farmer from Ireland. That's where his people are from. Walked the beat in Queens as a cop once he got to this country. Was asked about the Fighting Irish and the leprechaun logo. And many Irish-Americans are not offended, but many are. And should that also change?
You answer that.
The answer is yes.
Oh, gosh, pause that. I don't even know if it goes on. Is there more to that clip, Bubba? All right, but hold on here a second. First of all, I don't like debating someone when they're not around. Max is always welcome to call into this show, always open line, always welcome to give it back to me. We do it on First Take. We're just revisiting it now. I don't like debating someone when they're not here, but we're going to have to some extent right now. That's absurd, okay? It's absurd. You can't walk through life with the one-man theory. You can't walk through life that if something you say or something you do or something you champion offends one person, then you must stop. Because you will not be able to do anything. We will all sit in quiet rooms staring silently at each other and hope to God that doesn't offend each other. I hope the face you're looking at me with is placid and blank enough that I don't find offense in it, because I'm going to shut that one down too. You see, anyone being offended is the power. That's the power we have. It's become your muscle. Your offense becomes your ability to control someone else's behavior, because that's what this is about in the end. You know, it's not enough that we're offended by something. It's not enough that it bothers us. We have to then carry that out to dictating someone else's behavior. And so I ask you, if Native Americans are overwhelmingly not offended by the term Washington Redskins. And the Washington Redskins do not mean offense when they use that term Washington Redskins. So it's neither intended offensive nor received offensive. Who is the third party? Our great savior who steps into all of our debates and tells us, no, you should be. You are offensive, and you should be offensive. I said that wrong. You are offensive and you should be offended. We need that guidance, apparently. All right, Bubba, can you keep going? I don't know. Let's hear what else Max had to say.
The answer is yes. Unequivocally, yes.
Pause it again.
Pernicious.
So the one-man theory, right? The one-man theory. I was on to that, yes. So where does that lead you? It leads you to the Fighting Irish is too much. The Fighting Irish is too much. I can't believe this. How about San Diego Padres? Is that offensive to some Christians? I only need one. Demon Deacons of Wake Forest? Is that offensive? What if it's five? 5 people maybe offended by that?
To the demons or the deacons?
Both. You see? Good one, Bubba. Double offensive. All right, keep going.
The answer is yes. Unequivocally, yes. Pernicious, negative stereotypes of marginalized people that offend, even some among them, should be changed. It's not that hard.
It's not. It's only that easy if you find yourself in a position that your own moral bearing and your own personal perspective is the one you feel like everyone else should get. Not just everyone else should get, but everyone else should bend to. Everyone else should follow. You are your own little mini dictator, and I'm not talking directly to Max here. I'm talking to, because this is rampant. It's rampant in society. It's the proverbial you. You feel it. You think it. So you should dictate it to everybody. All right, Nuno. I know you disagree with me. Oh, you got it on the phone? Full of other people who disagree with me? No. Get on the microphone, Nuno. Hang up on that guy. I want you to tell, you don't have to, but you disagree with me, yes?
I do. And listen, if people are offended, that's their right. If they want to change it, they should fight for it. My thing is, at what point with polls, everything is just common sense, being like, hey, most people on this topic are offended, or that I'm hearing from are offended. Even if I don't agree with it, I can see their point.
Okay, so 2 things. Number one, I think common sense is a term that a lot of people co-opt to make it seem like their position is the obvious one. But if I follow it down the common sense path, wouldn't common sense be on my side? If 90% of Native Americans are not offended, wouldn't that be the common side? Thus, the common sense side?
Yes, you can say that.
Okay.
But at some point, is the continuously trying to fight it and being like, hey, these polls are proving that I'm right?
All right. Let's keep this conversation going. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Is LeBron also going to L.A.? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast. This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
I'm too damn persuasive. I gotta dial it back a little bit. You people all agree with me. Everyone is agreeing with me on this Redskins debate. I don't want it that way. 888-SAY-ESPN, that's 888-729-3776. I'm either going to have to do one of 2 things. I'm going to have to either dial back how persuasive I am and stop winning these debates, or you people who disagree with me are going to have to step up to the plate. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is now easier than ever. So give me a call if you disagree with me. Let me know. What have I missed here? I can promise you this. I dive into my mentions, and there's some disagreement. The problem is with those rebuttals on that worthless platform that is Twitter is that they amount to 3 different forms. 1, yell racist at me as loud as you can. 2, promise to show me your hands if we ever run into each other in person, which basically is an admission that you have no rebuttal. Or 3, facepalm. And that's the one I got from Skylar Diggins, WNBA star for the Dallas Wings. Facepalm. So if you have something more than a facepalm, yelling words at me or wanting to fight me, I would love for you to call me. 888-729-3776. We've always said LeBron James, or I've always said, LeBron James has a desire to be in L.A., that Los Angeles is an obvious outcome when he leaves Cleveland. And I didn't say if, because I don't think it is an if. I think it is a when LeBron James leaves the Cleveland Cavaliers to go somewhere else in the NBA. The Los Angeles Lakers are a premier franchise. The Los Angeles Lakers have cap room. The Los Angeles Lakers have some shape of a young nucleus in Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. The Lakers also have LeVar Ball, though. Let's never forget that. And if you think that doesn't matter, you're crazy. By the way, did you guys hear about LeVar Ball? What do you do now, Cerruti? Do I have this? LeVar Ball got mad. I want to play that. See if we can get that LeVar Ball sound. He got mad at Steve Kerr now. He called Steve Kerr Milli Vanilli. Oh, my gosh. Milli Vanilli, the fake, the fraud band that lip-synced their way to stardom. LeVar Ball, the fraud.
Do you know where that was?
What?
The Milli Vanilli?
Do I know where Milli Vanilli was?
No, like where that all went down, where it got,
No, where?
Bristol.
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
This is the home of Milli Vanilli?
They were at some like MTV thing across the street, and their recorder didn't work.
How about that?
Oh, yeah.
How about that? See that?
Hopefully that's right.
We're just carrying on a good tradition of exposing frauds.
Absolutely.
In Bristol. All right. So, but here's the point. LeBron James has always been interested in L.A. That's what my contention is. And L.A. has always been not just a viable landing spot, but a probable landing spot for LeBron James when he leaves the Cleveland Cavaliers. But what we didn't anticipate was that might not be the Los Angeles Lakers. That might, in fact, be the Los Angeles Clippers. The number one thing the Clippers have done when they've traded Blake Griffin is give themselves freedom. They've given themselves cap space. They've given themselves the ability to sign superstars. Listen to Bobby Marks, ESPN NBA insider.
They're in the driver's seat as far as how they want to shape this roster, starting with the summer of 2018 when, depending on what happens with Jordan and Lou Williams, also Avery Bradley will be a free agent. But they can go in a direction if they want to go out and create cap space, but it will be at the cost of gutting their roster. Milos Teodosic, Patrick Beverley, those will be the two players. And they also have the direction of building through the draft. But keep an eye on the summer of 2019. Clippers could have $70 million in cap space, free agent class of Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler. They will be in the driver's seat when it comes to that summer.
There you go. Klay Thompson, Paul George, big names on the market in 2019 that the Los Angeles Clippers could be in on. Could they also be in on LeBron James? Would the Clippers be a potential landing spot for the King? Sports Illustrated writer, NBA writer Andrew Sharp is now joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. What's up, Andrew?
What's going on, Will? How you doing?
Good, man. Big fan of your work.
Appreciate it.
Talk to me about LeBron. Talk to me about LeBron's future. Is it completely bananas to think, Clippers, there's a chance?
I think everything's on the table right now. I think we're going to all spend the next 4 or 5 months driving ourselves insane, thinking through 5 or 6 different scenarios. And the one thing you could say about LeBron is traditionally, as he approaches these decisions, we never have any idea what he's going to do. I think the Clippers deal, though, it really looks to me like they're building toward 2019 when Kawhi and Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving are going to be free agents. And I think that they have an eye toward that class. I'm sure that there are going to be all kinds of rumors that the Clippers are interested, but I wouldn't look at them as like a realistic landing spot for LeBron this summer.
You've got this piece up on the NBA crossover right now, LeBron James and the limits of unprecedented power. And your contention essentially is this. The days of LeBron James dictating the outcome of a team, the future of a team, what? Those go away when he goes away from the Cleveland Cavaliers?
It's going to be really interesting to see. I don't know whether they're going to go away, but as someone who's watched the last 5 or 6 years of his career, I mean, we've never seen an athlete with this kind of power over various organizations, and I think that's one of the reasons he went back to the Cavs is because they said that you're going to have say over everything we do, and that's been borne out over the last few years. But you look at what's wrong with the Cavs now, and a lot of the problems stem from the Cavs sort of committing too much money to guys that he either represented or his agency represented, and just like LeBron's guys. And so
Andrew, so would you say that the reason that his power could wane is not because of his age and the stage where he is in his career, but because there could be judgment on the kind of moves that he has orchestrated in the past? You're right. He's the reason Tristan Thompson has a big deal in Cleveland is LeBron James. The reason J.R. Smith has a big deal in Cleveland is because of LeBron James. So you think it's other GMs looking around and going, we don't want to give him that kind of power. We could end up in Cleveland's situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of teams are going to have to look at it and say, I don't know if it's worth it for us to mortgage the future here for 1 or 2 years of LeBron. And traditionally, like any team in the league, that trade-off would have been worth it. But I think as his skills begin to decline over the next few years, it's going to be a tougher call for teams to make. I'm sure the Lakers are willing to do it. But even if he went to the Lakers, I mean, does LeBron show up in L.A. and start pushing for them to trade Brandon Ingram, who should be a really good all-star level player in a few years, but may not be ready to like challenge the Warriors next year? And so I'm more curious. I really don't know how it's going to play out if he goes somewhere else. But part of me, as someone who's really come around on LeBron over the last 4 or 5 years, I hope that he's able to adapt, because watching him kind of play all these games behind the scenes and try to pull the strings, like, it's going to become less endearing as we go.
Wait a minute, real quick. I've only got like 30 seconds to a minute here. What do you mean you've come around on LeBron?
I mean, well, when he was in Miami, I rooted against him like everybody else. And over the last 4 or 5 years, he's become a lot more fun to watch and enjoy and root for. But the sort of Machiavellian game behind the scenes is not going to be as fun as he gets older.
Yeah. All right. That's Sports Illustrated NBA writer Andrew Sharp on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can check out his piece, LeBron James and the Limits of Unprecedented Power, on the NBA crossover. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Cerruti, if you did this list, if you said to yourself, how realistic is the Clippers? How realistic are the Clippers as an outcome for LeBron James? And you combine this, what we talked about earlier with Ramona Shelburne, and the idea that so many teams are looking at a ceiling. Now, obviously, LeBron breaks you through a ceiling really quickly, but he would still have to join a team better than the Cavs, a team who's close. You'd almost think he has to join one of those 5 or 6 teams that Ramona talks about that have at least significant building blocks to beating the Warriors. And who is that? Houston?
Maybe.
San Antonio?
That'd be fascinating, but I maybe.
It's not Boston.
It's definitely not. He's not going to play in Boston. It's probably not. It's not Boston. I don't know if it's Philly. I don't know. I can't name another Eastern Conference team I think he'd go to. And then why would he go to the West where he has more competition?
Only because he could be. I mean, that's the closest he gets to starting fresh with the young core.
With the Banana Boat crew, he could probably bring everybody there.
Well, maybe not
in
the
2
Banana
years.
Boat crew, but Paul George.
Or
maybe some
exactly.
of these guys. Yeah.
But again,
in L.A., one of the 2 L.A. destinations.
But say he goes to the Rockets. It's an imperfect fit. You've got 3 really, really heavy ball handlers on that team. How is that going to work together?
I don't know, man. You put that talent together. You accumulate that and figure that out later. All right. Let's get to your calls. Did anybody step up to the plate, Nuno? Nobody?
You got a caller there.
Somebody brave enough?
They just want to call you out on your numbers.
On my numbers?
Yes.
All right. Good. Somebody's brave enough to step up to the plate and tell me how I'm wrong on the Washington Redskins debate. I'll be pleased if they can do that. Also, somebody else is accusing the Patriots of cheating. Again. Forgive me if it sounds like a loser's limp. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Mike Golick here. You know, ADT, the #1 security company, can now help keep you safe at home and when you're on the go. Get started with the ADT Starter Kit professionally installed for only $49. Plus, you'll get ADT Go, the new family mobile safety app and service with 24/7 emergency response for free with any ADT security system. Go to ADT.com/podcast to learn more today.
Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Additional charge for ADT Go premium services after March 31st, 2018.
Across the street from ESPN.
Across the street.
At Lake Compounds. Milli Vanilli is on stage. Was it an on-stage live event, big concert
it was like
production?
an MTV summer stage thing, yeah.
And the soundtrack went out?
Well, it was skipping. It just like, girl, you know
right,
it's, girl, you know it's, girl, you know it's.
That's right. But here's the thing. Everybody lip syncs in concert. Everybody fakes that. So why did that expose them? Because what the real story was, Milli Vanilli was a fraud in the recording booth as well, right? It wasn't their voices anywhere, not on stage, not in the recording booth.
Well, according to the story, as Noon and I were just reading, is that people in the audience didn't even care. Like, they didn't even really notice or care. But I think it's because Milli Vanilli handled it so poorly, they ran off the stage. I think if they probably covered it up, it probably would have been fine. But they just ran off the stage scared, and that probably threw everyone off.
The reason we're talking about Milli Vanilli is the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app is this is what LeVar Ball told Basket News. Coaching is not hard. I mean, anybody can coach. Look at Steve Kerr. He's the Milli Vanilli of coaching, which I mean is you can go stand at the same spot like Luke Walton did and win 27 games. When you get the right horses, just running. As soon as they win a championship, everybody says, oh, he's a great coach. That team was put together by Mark Jackson. And now Steve Kerr, jumps up and try to take all the credit. That's why I call him the Milli Vanilli of coaching. This is a little much to take, LeVar. I mean, what you're saying when you're calling someone the Milli Vanilli of coaching is you're accusing them of essentially being a fraud, a front man, pretending to be something they're not, projecting greatness when you are at best ordinary. Isn't that what? I mean, isn't that what we're dealing with here with you, LeVar? Isn't that what the Big Baller brand is? I mean, folks are ordering shoes out there and getting a different pair. Folks are ordering shoes out there and not getting any pair. And when they call up, Bubba, help me out. When they call up to say, hey, I bought a $500 pair of this kind of Big Baller shoe. Instead, I got this other kind of Big Baller shoe. They're told what?
Oh, they're told you're a small baller.
That's right. You're a small baller. I mean, I think that is the Milli Vanilli of shoe companies. That's the Milli Vanilli of business. That's why you got an F by the Better Business Bureau. That's what you call a fraud. All right. Who we got? Rob? Rob, you there? You on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line? What's up, Rob? Yeah, Rob from Spokane.
I'm about to say something about LeVar here, since you brought him up. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Rob.
The problem with LeVar
is
he's so myopic, right? He only looks at games. He doesn't understand the 99.999% of what Kerr does during practice, right? The guy's just an idiot. So.
By the way, just real quickly on that, I watched last night the Two Bills documentary, the 30 for 30 that's going to come out on Thursday, and all of my producers, it was all they could do to keep me from talking about it on all day today on radio. I loved this documentary. You got to watch it. It's Thursday night. I'm going to be back here on Friday morning ready to talk about it with all of you. It's awesome. Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells at the table together.
Got the DVR set, man. I can't wait to see it either. So just real quick on the Redskins, and I totally agree with the one man theory, the slippery slope, and I'm totally with you on that. I just had to say one thing in regard to that 90-10 poll out there, right? And you had said that kind of solidifies the common sense, right? The common sense says 90% of people say not a big deal, doesn't offend me in the Native American community. 10% says it does. Good stat, right? But you have to take multiple stats when you're going to be doing something like that. And another really good stat to look at is that 97% of NFL football team nicknames aren't racist, right? Only 3% of NFL football mascot names are a racist term.
Wait.
97.3, man. That's
hold on.
Another way to look at it.
Is the 3 represented? You just have to help me because sometimes I'm dumb with
my
math. Is that just the Redskins you're saying? 1 of 32?
1 divided by 30. Divided by 32, right?
Okay,
so
okay.
1 out of 32 NFL names are racist. So why?
Okay,
why
but see, that's
still have it?
Okay.
Says,
here, okay, allow me to respond, Rob. Allow me to respond.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Here's the thing about this. Okay. That's circular reasoning. That's self-reinforcing. Your whole argument goes like this. It's wrong because it's racist. Why is it racist? Because I said it so. You're the one that dictated the terms of that entire debate. I didn't say it was racist. I don't think 90% of Native Americans feel like it's racist. You're suggesting it's self-evidently so. And many people, by the way, that disagree with me believe that it's common sense. It's clear. It's clear in the term of the word, but not the history, nor the intention, nor the reception of it believes that it's racist. You're just falling back on your opinion and just pretending like it's an objective definition.
Professor at a major university.
I'm sorry? I missed that first part.
I'm a university professor. I've studied Native American history longer than 20 years worth of what people think is offensive in the Native American community. You go back and look at the term redskin. Mm-hmm. If they were called the Washington feather in your ears, that would not be racist unless somebody made it racist. And I could give you your
Okay, pause it real quick, Rob, because I respect
Redskin is a historically racist term.
Hold on. Back and forth conversation here, because I respect.
Yeah.
Where do you teach?
Where do you teach? There's a little delay, and I apologize.
Where do you teach?
I actually teach operations management.
I thought you said you were a college professor in Native American studies or something like that.
No, I said, but I've done lots of studies. I'm an educated person, so I'm not just going off of like, oh, it offends me, Redskin offends me.
Oh, okay.
I've done a lot of reading, and I've done a lot of research on this. I wouldn't call...
That's fair. That's fine. I thought you were saying you were actually a professor on this subject. I'm not trying to...
no, I'm sorry. No,
I'm not trying to gotcha here. I'm just being clear. All right, so...
No, but I'm just saying, why do you think it's not a racist term?
Well...
Why do you think I made up that Redskin is a racist term? Have you looked at the history of where the term Redskin came from?
I have. Now, so you're ready for my rebuttal.
I cannot wait.
All right. You're right, Rob, that at certain times in our history, the term Redskin has been used in a derogatory fashion. But because it has been used at certain times, does that give it its objective definition? See, the original term of Redskin, the way it was used when it was first encountered in the English language, was among American Indians who called each other that. And they didn't call each other that because of the color of their skin, but because of the color of pigmentation used to dye skin among certain tribes. That was then carried on. And this goes back, by the way, to the 1700s. I've done a little reading and study on this as well. It then went on, and at certain times in our history was used in a derogatory fashion. It was used, as a slur. It was used to describe, scalps that one could go and get bounties for. It was used reprehensibly. Then you bring us up to modern day times. Is that what the Washington Redskins are using it as? If it has a mixed history, it doesn't have an objective definition. So then you go back to intention and reception. If they don't intend it to be offensive and it's not received as offensive, it's really you caping up for it for a reason. You asked why you would do this. Honestly, to signal your own virtue, to signal how perfect you are on this. That's why I think so many people champion this cause. I have to go quickly, Rob, but I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, and I think the one thing, and I appreciate your side of the coin. The one thing that might help this argument a little bit and might help people be a little less scared to talk to you is when you say something to me like, I have this view because I think I'm perfect. I don't have this view because I think I'm perfect. I think the thing about Notre Dame is ridiculous, right? Because that's right, and I just think that it brings back bad connotations, and that's all I'm getting at. I'm not saying it's racist because I'm perfect.
I take that.
Okay?
Thank you for that feedback, Rob. I do. I'm being a little aggressive, and I'm painted you into a corner, and I shouldn't do that. Sometimes my blood gets up, okay? Sometimes I get a little worked up. I accept that criticism. Thank you, Rob. You can tweet the show through the oneaaronflowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Oneaaronflowers.com has the Valentine's gift she'll love. Right now, you can get 12 multicolored roses for only $19.99, or double it up to 24 multicolored roses for only $10 more. To order, go to oneaaronflowers.com/ESPN. I can accept that. That wasn't fair when I said that. Rob didn't think he was perfect. I put that on top of him. We're all working to be better here, okay? So don't be afraid to call me. I'm not gonna paint you in a bad light. I'll be nice, okay? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I've been informed, Nuno left the studio. I've been informed that at times I can come off as a, what's the word we want to use here?
I don't think we can say what he called you.
Go get Nuno. Why'd he leave? Did he call me that word and leave? He got mad and left? All right. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I'll try to figure out the FCC workaround on what Nuno called me and figure out why I come off that way in just a moment. Golic and Wingo is in the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Reminding you that Golic and Wingo will be live from Minneapolis beginning tomorrow for coverage of the big game. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Look who's back. Nuno came back. So tell me again, Nuno, how is it I come off every once in a while?
Let's just say kind of pompous. Can we go with pompous?
It's not the word you used.
Yeah, I'm not going to use that word.
What are you talking about? I just had a nice exchange with Rob from Spokane. He gave me some feedback. He said one of the reasons people might not want to call you is, what did he say? You're aggressive, and you suggested I painted him into a corner that he didn't feel like was appropriate. And I apologize for that.
Correct. You might come off maybe a little abrasive. And I think letting Rob finish his point was a good thing.
All right. I'm going to work on that. Self-improvement. It's, you're right. I'd like to think that's not the word. Everybody knows the word that you used. I don't have to use it, but Justin's going to come marching in here if I say it.
He's in Minnesota. What's the worst that could happen?
Oh, really? Would you even dump me, Bubba? You'd dump me so fast.
I'd probably have to.
All right. Listen, come back up in just a little bit. here in about, 7 or 8 minutes, Chiefs quarterback, for now, Alex Smith, is going to join me on the phone. I want to talk about Alex Smith about this. Does he feel disrespected? I mean, the guy was the 7th-rated quarterback in QBR, and he's being already ushered out of Kansas City. The heir apparent, Pat Mahomes, has been sitting there. And to be quite honest, I was a guy that said maybe it's time to get onto the Pat Mahomes era because it's so obvious what the Chiefs' plans are. It's a little bit like the Clippers debate we're having. It's like when you've seen your ceiling, you got to be harsh about what your future is. But you know what? It's not Alex Smith's fault. Alex Smith's been great. So after a while, he's just like, I've had it. San Francisco, Kansas City, I keep doing well, I keep putting up numbers, and I can't keep a job? It's nuts. So I want to see how he feels about that. But speaking of elite quarterbacks, big-time quarterbacks, I'm continuing to watch Tom vs. Time, Facebook documentary on Tom Brady. Episode 2 is up, and this one's called The Mental Game. Again, if you're not a Tom Brady believer, watch this doc. Now, granted, it's propaganda put out by Tom Brady, so it's going to be edited and set to just the right music. But what you see in there is Tom Brady working through the mechanics of delivering the football at the age of 40. I'm talking about, is his elbow inside the critical mass of his body? Or when he throws, is he swinging his left elbow out too far, thus pulling his eyes to the left and off target? Can he deliver that ball, keeping his elbow up and tight against his side? And I'm talking about 100, just throw after throw, dozens, 100 throws over and over till he gets it right. Poor Danny Amendola out there catching him over and over again. And he's watching film. He talks about, I could sit here and watch film 4 or 5 hours a day. I know, I get it. Tom's like the executive producer on this project. But this is the greatness of Tom Brady. This is the difference maker of Tom Brady. Okay, you want to talk to me about Aaron Rodgers' arm talent, his arm strength? Great. That's awesome. This is Tom Brady's muscle. This is his specialty. Being this disciplined, this dedicated, and working this hard day in, day out, hour after hour. And if you can't love that, if you can't appreciate that, you're lost. You're just lost. Speaking of that, Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for now of the New York Giants. So he's already out, Nuno? He's already out. Okay. Where is Spagnuolo right now? Does he have a job yet?
Nope.
No job. Okay. Well, in 2005, he was linebackers coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he smelled something a little fishy when it came to those New England Patriots. Listen.
I tell you, the biggest thing we learned was make sure you have 2 signal callers, not 1 signal caller, because they may have all your signals.
Yeah, well, look, Spiking's real now. I mean, that was a real deal.
When you go back and look at that tape, it was evident to us. I'm not crying over spilt milk here, but we believe that Tom knew when we were pressuring, because he certainly got the ball out pretty quick. But, you got to play the game, and they won that particular day. But there's no question, I wasn't going to let that happen. And the 08 Super Bowl after the 07 season, we made sure we had 2 signal callers, and we were protecting against that.
That's Steve Spagnuolo on 97.5, The Fanatic in Philly. This is actually something that Brady talks about in this Facebook documentary. He talks about watching those hours and hours, 4 or 5 hours of film a day, looking at defensive players, any tells they might have on when they're going to rush the passer. Did he have more than tells? Did he have more than film study? I'll tell you this. I was hanging out with Chris Canty. Chris Canty, longtime New York Giant, famous Dallas Cowboy before that. I was hanging out with him last Friday when I filled in on the Stephen A. Smith show, and Canty said this: whatever the Patriots did, just let me guarantee you one thing. Everyone else was doing it too. Everyone else. You want to discount the Patriots' 5 Super Bowls because of Spygate? You should know the only thing the Patriots did is do that better than everyone else. You see, I'm not a Patriots fan. Everyone knows I'm a Cowboys fan. I started this debate not wanting the Patriots to win because it diminishes the Cowboys' accomplishments. But at some point, the greatness becomes so overwhelming that you're banging around in the trees, getting lost when you're talking about Spygate and Deflategate because you're waving your hand at a mountain of Lombardi trophies, 5 to be exact, soon to be 6. And if you have to wave at a mountain of trophies to get to your Spygate argument, to get to your Deflategate argument, I just think you might sound like you're crying over spilled milk, or you have a loser's limp. Appreciate what you're watching. It's great. The Will Cain Show is reminding that you can watch all 3 hours of the show on ESPN News. All right, straight ahead. Alex Smith, Chiefs quarterback, joins me. Want to know how he feels? Is he respected around the league? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Is this like is this as close as you get to fangirl him? This is like me if Tony Romo walked in, or maybe Brady, if Tom Brady walked in. This is as close as it gets for you right here?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't think I enjoy an athlete more than I enjoy Alex Smith.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We'll try to cut Cerruti's mic here because I don't want him shrieking. Like, like when the Beatles came to America. And I don't want you doing that in the background. We're going to treat this man with respect. That's Chiefs quarterback Alex Smith joining us now on behalf of FedEx. How they work with the USO to keep current and former military members connected to football. What's that all about, Alex?
Yeah, so I'm a finalist for the FedEx Air Player of the Year with Wentz and Brady. So FedEx is going to cut a check for $50,000 in the name of the winner to the USO, and then has been partnering with them this time of year to send football packages to servicemen and women all over the world. To kind of keep them connected to football and their friends and family. So, pumped to be a part of it. Pumped to be a finalist, obviously, with two other obviously pretty good players. But fans could go out there and vote. I believe it's NFL.com/FedEx. I would love for that check to be in my name, but obviously just an honor to be a finalist.
Yeah, that's right. So, all right, if you want Alex to beat Tom Brady and Carson Wentz, NFL.com/FedEx. Or on Twitter by tweeting his last name, Smith, and hashtag Air and Ground. All right, what are the odds that over the next, 6 or 7 minutes, I'm going to get you to answer any questions about your future and where you're going to play football?
It's strong, let me tell you. Yeah,
the odds are good?
No,
really? So I'm just going to start naming cities.
I mean, I've been asked this question, a lot lately, and I mean, it's the truth. I couldn't tell you either way. I have a year left of my contract in Kansas City. I love it there. I would love to be back, but at the same time, I mean, I get the reality of the situation. I get that obviously tough decisions have to get made all the time, and I've been through that before, even so. Not naive to it, but obviously at this point, just too early to tell.
Well, okay, look, you and I have never met, Alex. This is the first time we've ever talked, so you're just going to have to trust me when I tell you that I'm truly fascinated by, I don't know. I'm fascinated by success. I'm fascinated by failure. I'm fascinated by the mindset that you have to put yourself in and, quite honestly, endure, as you just said, the second time. So I'll ask it this way. Do you feel respected in football?
I do, yeah, without a doubt, to be honest, I do. I feel like everywhere I go, amongst my peers, just getting back from spending the week in Orlando at the Pro Bowl. I feel like I feel like I've earned that. Absolutely.
Well, then why do you? How is it explained to you that you find yourself in Kansas City the same situation you found yourself in San Francisco? So, look, you're 7th in QBR this year. You had an amazing year. You were just at the Pro Bowl, and yet you somehow have to come to grips with the idea that you could possibly not be the quarterback of the future, much less next year. How is that explained to you in a way that you are like, yeah, I can respect that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a good point. I think the reality is, though, there are players that move on from teams that you never would have imagined, and I think that's kind of the reality of the game now with salary cap and free agency and the draft, and so, for whatever reason, it potentially could happen to me again. Who knows? I guess you play long enough. Certainly, like I said, I'm not going to be naive to it.
You ever get bitter about it?
Reality.
Do you ever get bitter about it?
No, I don't. Not anymore. No, I mean, I think you play long enough. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and get all bent out of shape about something that I don't control or don't even know. Because I feel like even the last time to get all worked up about it, I feel like it was a blessing in disguise anyway. Mm-hmm. I was so pumped about the opportunity when I got traded from San Francisco to Kansas City, and I feel like it's been amazing for me. So you never know. I think to get worked up over something that you can't control is only unproductive.
So would you, if I said hot or cold, would you tell me like the weather in Jacksonville is awesome and I like the way they change their helmets? Hot or cold?
To be honest, I wish I could play that game right now and have fun, but I don't. I don't know. I don't even know if to know who are all the players, if it'll happen, what's the likelihood of the different scenarios. So it would just be pure, at this point, you just be couldn't tell you the truth.
Well, do you pay attention do you pay attention to, obviously during the season you do, but do you pay attention to the news that teams that could be on the lookout for a quarterback, teams that could be in the market?
Yeah, you hear all that stuff, and it's hard not to not hear it, but it's also hard to tell what's true and what's not. Right? There's a lot out there these days. It's hard to decipher between what's real and what isn't.
How's your relationship with Pat Mahomes?
Good. Pat and I get along really well. Really well. Yeah. From day one he came in, I think, obviously it can be an awkward situation from day one, especially with the media as they try to kind of pin it, him versus me. But quickly you kind of get down to just kind of what kind of teammate are you, right? Mm-hmm. And Pat's been an awesome teammate, totally respectful from day one, coming in, just kind of putting in work. And so he and I have gotten along really, really well. Good friends, and I imagine will be so.
Well, you don't know this, but you've got a lot of supporters on this show. In fact, I would say behind the glass of some of the producers, you have what we would call cheerleaders on this show, Alex Smith champions. So, look, I ask you these questions because, again, I'm fascinated with your situation for the second time in a row. And we all wish you luck, man. And like you said, it could be a blessing in disguise. Maybe in Kansas City, maybe somewhere else. But we wish you luck, man.
I appreciate that, Will. Thanks a lot.
All right, that's Alex Smith for now, quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's interesting he brings up, Sruti, that blessing in disguise stuff. Sort of my questions to him and my thought process with Alex is like, geez, how do you get in this situation again? But I like it when he said it could be a blessing in disguise. Certainly moving from San Francisco to Kansas City was for him. And wouldn't moving to Jacksonville be a pretty big blessing? I'm just spitballing here, just speculating. But stepping in with that defense, those offensive weapons,
I think there are a few places that could be great. Buffalo, Christine Lisi's squad. Like a good place with a good defense, running game, ready to win. All they need is a guy who's going to be steady because Blake wasn't steady. Tyrod wasn't steady. They need a guy like Alex Smith. I totally believe if they keep everything as is in both of those places, they could be serious contenders in the AFC.
Yeah. Alex Smith at the helm of Jacksonville, by the way, that just sounds, we can get to Buffalo a little later, Christine. No need to pipe in on that one because as we're ranking blessings in disguise, let's just say Buffalo is somewhere below Jacksonville. I'm just saying. By the way, Jacksonville changed their helmets, which I consider a bad move. I, apparently alone, loved the two-tone helmet.
You were alone.
It was awesome, man.
They were horrendous.
I don't even know what to do with you right now.
The front half was black and the back half was like a gold color.
Yeah, but
pick one or the other.
No. But it wasn't a stripe. It bled black to gold.
Really,
it was a gradient.
It did. It somewhat did, but it didn't look great. They didn't do it well.
It was awesome. I'm a firm believer of this. If you have a traditional uniform, don't mess with it. Cowboys, Steelers, Giants, don't mess with it. If you don't, be the Oregon Ducks. Trick it out all the way. Jacksonville Jaguars should be tricked out all the way. Two-tone helmet, full thumbs up. All right, straight ahead, Teddy Bruschi's in Minnesota. He's going to join the Will Cain Show on ESPN.